this is where we discuss the possibilities.
Hi guys, I'm Joe Klimczewski, founder of the Diet Doc, and my co-host Corey Probst is on like a month-long vacation. So we have the opportunity to talk to some amazing professionals in our industry. I want them to collaborate on some of the same categorical topics that Corey and I often discuss. And today we're going to be in the fitness entrepreneurship topic box. And I have Shannon Morse, who is our Diet Doc program owner, not only in San Francisco, but you've now, Shannon, acquired a couple different locations on the East Coast. So tell us where you're at there.
So we're in Clemens, North Carolina, and Charleston, South Carolina.
Okay. And you've also collaborated with Aaron Merle from Nashville. And so there are going to be some interconnected pieces of your company all over the country. And not so ironically, that's what I want to talk about today, which is leadership and growth and all of the kind of things that a lot of people aspire to. But I think, and I certainly don't have this figured out, I've come to some newer realizations that might be interesting about leadership and about how to, plan for growth or even just decide what your company should be. So to tell me a little bit about your process in that, if I just throw out the term leadership and fitness entrepreneurship, how does somebody or how do you envision what that even means?
That's a whopper of a question to just come out of the gate with.
Huge topic, I know. So feel free to answer it any way you want. We can start with smaller chunks.
Yeah, no, it's a really great question. And I think this is one of the reasons that I wanted to get on this call, because it's a big question. And I think as you're running a business, you're discovering what it looks like every day. And especially when you're going through supporting other people and other personalities and learning how everyone communicates and learns in their own way how to deliver the information that you're providing. You started with this company. When did you start with this company?
Different versions. We started licensing almost 15 years ago, but the very beginning of it was about 25 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So I can only imagine the evolution of that. Myself in my own business, it's evolved from, focusing on personal training first, movement, Pilates, rehabilitation, and then it moved into a nutrition focus. And there's been a lot of people that I've worked with. I certified the personal trainers before, so I had this understanding of how people learn differently and what that looks like in a lot of different modalities, whether it's movement in the body or understanding the science of nutrition, and looking at what leadership looks like in those aspects is completely different than leading other people to lead. Working with just someone one-on-one and sharing your knowledge with them so that they can use it for their own purposes is one thing. Now, leading other people to lead other people, it feels like a very different animal. This is something that I feel like you have mastered, like the science of nutrition and how to deliver it so people can understand it. The way that I've experienced your delivery is a way that's really palatable. It's not full of all of this intense scientific jargon. You do use that when it's necessary, but you also make it so it's relatable and applicable for, your general population. And I think that's been a fabulous element of how you've built this company and been able to deliver the information so other people can also deliver it, right? And also in that, so much about this topic that there may be a whole bunch of different things that you might expect that other people will already know. And this is where I'm finding myself hitting a growth spot, because there's so much to deliver, and I've experienced it through the practical application of coaching clients that I almost miss out all of the details that come very naturally now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And, to your point, I think we all are kind of a slave to our own set of personality traits. And we could talk to 100 people about leadership and they would all have a different definition probably based on their own biases. But because I don't think of myself as a leader, I've never set out to lead in anything. I just simply do what you said. If I understand a topic, then I'm doing my thing. I'm working away. And if other people want to look over my shoulder or join me, all of a sudden you find yourself in a leadership role, whether you wanted to be or not. So I'm really just starting to try and figure this out and starting to understand that there are probably weaknesses on the other side of my strengths that I really need to get better at. So I'm really interested to hear more about your own growth here.
I mean, it's great because the questions that I really had in mind for you touch on that topic. So we're kind of right in the same wavelength in that regard. And I think it's really amazing that you don't consider yourself a leader, because one of the things that always comes to mind is, actually, this is probably a really good reflection in terms of what leadership is, whether your motivation was to lead or whether it's the result of you just sharing who you are and the topics that you are educated with. The result, in your case, is leadership. I mean, when we have our Diet Doc conferences every year, I'm always amazed at the types of people who come together who have been drawn to provide this education for others. And I'd love to hear what you think about this. What I see as like the one factor that every one of those people shares is that they're so driven to supporting others. Like, they really care about people. And I don't know if I've experienced many other groups of people in the fitness industry, and maybe I haven't been out enough. Maybe I don't get out enough in that regard, but it's really this amazing, unique, authentic, like super compassionate group of individuals that have been attracted to what you've created. And whether that's leadership or just you being you and attracting people who are similar, I don't know.
Well, I do love that. First of all, thank you for that. But it really happens one person at a time. And I intentionally, it's funny you say that, because I see myself as very uncharismatic. And so I intentionally try and pull people in to be a better face of the company. I mean, that's why, I've asked Corey to be such a stronger part of our business, and my literal business partner, other leaders within our company. I want to see them take on bigger roles, just like I created a collaboration with you in creating a new curriculum that we're going to launch soon called the Meal Doc. So those are things that I could just kind of jam out there into our business and into cyberspace. But I much prefer to have other people around me for a couple reasons. Number one, I know that my perspective is limited. I know that whatever my experiences are and biases are, that is such a tiny sliver of what's possible. So I want to have more perspective, even just for myself. I think that kind of brainstorming and collaborative process is absolutely critical. So hopefully that's part of what you see in our company and in me, is that true desire to elevate other people and let their skills shine through.
Yeah, I do. I totally see that. And as you were talking just now, it actually made me think that, yeah, that's what leadership is to me, is empowering people to realize their strengths and then supporting them to grow in that way. Yeah.
I think that's huge.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
So you now are in this position where you're buying new territories around the country. You're bringing on partners and coaches and nutrition consultants, and you've got a growing team. And you're going to find out very quickly, if you haven't already, that there's a lot of amazing things to come with that, but there's also a lot of challenge. So, so how are you empowering your team?
So one thing I did in the very beginning, when I just had the coaches, Millie, Anthony, and Jen, is our very first meeting, I had them all do the DISC personality profile. Have you heard of that one? Mm-hmm. So that was really fascinating. And it was a very extensive readout that they gave us. And a lot of it had images, which I found useful. And what was really cool is that Anthony and I shared a lot of similarities. Jen and Millie shared a lot of similarities in terms of where we were strong and where we had room to grow. And the compatibility was really well-rounded. And I was able to bring that to them and say, okay, this is what this paper says, but it's only one piece of the story, right? And so I really want to look at what you're passionate about, where you want to grow, and let's bring that into the company and really infuse it into what we're doing. Because my feeling is that if it's not right for them, it's not going to be right for me either. So I really want them to enjoy what they're doing and to feel passionate about it. And if I can make it feel that like it's not a job, that is my main goal. Mm-hmm. I want it to feel exciting and like they're getting something out of it every day. As I've gone into spreading into locations with Lisa in Clemens and Rachel in Charleston, I feel so lucky that I have these two women. They are incredible, not only because they have these very unique strengths that are so evident when I look at them, and possibly because they're not strengths of my own. Mm-hmm. And so I look at them and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I hit the jackpot. And it's that diversity, like you're talking about, that different type of perspective. The one thing that I'm coming into is that I think in my personality, I really want to be a very broad base of support. I believe in working with people one-on-one more than I do with groups, because I feel like the long-lasting benefit is exponential in my experience. And so I talk to them every single day. And what I'm noticing is it takes a lot of time.
Absolutely. Yeah, that kind of connecting element is huge. I know it's so easy. I mean, we could talk about this in any relational concept, but if you're doing something together, especially in business, this is where business partnerships fail, and you don't have that constant connection and feedback loop, it's so easy to just start assuming things. And, well, I wonder if my partner is doing this, and why is he or she not doing that? And you start ruminating on things and catastrophizing. Pretty soon, all of this world of false, insinuations are there, and it's just too easy. So yes, having that constant flow of communication is critical. And that's another thing. Like when I said I don't think of myself as a leader at all, that's one of these areas. That's totally not me. I just put my head down and do my job, and that's it. And for so many years, that's a huge deficit that has been shown in some of my relationships in terms of other people just saying, wow, we really need actual, quote, leadership in this. And it's just not happening because I just assume everybody should be doing their job. Everybody's as committed and motivated as I am, and they're doing their thing. And I intentionally don't want to tell people what to do. That's an internal script for me that I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be bossy, because I think I probably was at some point in my life and got punched in the face with that. So now I've overcorrected, and I'm almost too timid to lead, quote unquote, in some things when it really does require better input. So maybe you can teach me on some of those points.
Well, okay. So that's interesting too, because do you think that it's that you don't want other people to think that you're telling them what to do, or do you think it's you not liking being told what to do?
I really think it's the former, and I don't want to go too much into therapy here, but it kind of comes from those original scripts from watching my mom and dad, communicate, and their ways of communicating. So I absolutely know this about myself. I have a sensitivity to criticism, and it's not so much that I, don't want to be criticized because I think I'm amazing. I'm hypersensitive to criticism because in other relationships, I've seen what it does to the other person, and I simply don't want to, be that cause of letdown for somebody. So if somebody criticizes me, if I've gone out there to limb and I've said, okay, let's go do this, and then it doesn't work well for somebody, or I feel like somebody was let down, that's kind of crushing to me, that it just wasn't the right thing for that person or those people. So even knowing that's never attainable, you can't please all people, you can't be perfect, that sensitivity to doing the right thing and possibly letting somebody down, it's real.
Yeah. And I can see how that's also useful in this, in running a business with so many different types of personalities. It's really interesting because, to bring it back to the aspect of coaching coaches and coaching entrepreneurs, what's funny about that is that I actually love being told what to do. And I think this surprises most people because I'm constantly giving directives in all areas of my life at the moment. So when someone can just go like, yeah, I'm going to tell you what to do, I'm like, yes, I get to relax for a little bit. And so with that in mind, then it's how you communicate to all these different personality types in a way that works for them, right? And so I can only imagine, with all of the diet doc clinicians that you have, that everyone receives information differently. And so how do you navigate that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And I really like what you said prior to that. And people like being told what to do. This is another thing that I'm coming to learn, because I'm like you, right? I mean, we all, if we just have clear directions and a path, then we can all get together and we're just, sled dogs side by side and everybody's in sync. But if we don't lead with intention, if that's your role, you have clients, you have staff, you have all kinds of partnership relationships now with other people. And if somebody is looking to you to actually go out there and say, this is what we must do, you can get feedback, you can get collaborative, input, and that's all necessary. But still, somebody has to be out there every single day with that. Sometimes it's encouragement, sometimes it's correction, sometimes it's saying, hey guys, we've been doing this, but now we need to make this course correction. Whatever it is, there really does have to be somebody in a leadership position. And the best leaders are always the best followers or the best teammates, which is why I love what you said, that you, as somebody who is kind of a natural leader, I believe very strongly, you also don't mind following. If you're part of a team that's doing the same thing, you love to see great leadership in front of you, as well as you having to provide it when called on. So I think that's all fantastic.
Yeah, it's so question for you. If you were to say someone who represented a great leader in your life that you were a recipient of, who can you remember that was that person? Just like qualities.
Wow, a leader. Without having one single person right now in mind, I'll throw out a quality that I thought about. I think everybody has heard this illustration, or kind of translating this into a metaphor. When an airline attendant says, in the case of emergency, make sure you put on your mask first before you put on somebody else's mask or help them. I've heard other people, I think, maybe I've just thought of it myself, thinking that's kind of like self-care. You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people. But I've got a little bit of a twist on that. I don't disagree with that. But what if you were so concerned about somebody else that you did take care of them first? Don't you think that person's going to turn around and take care of you? And I think that kind of reciprocation, when you're truly other focused, is an important part of leadership. I remember with Corey, we were speaking at an event this year, and another speaker was talking about personality traits. And he said, some people are just natural givers. They never think about themselves. They just want to give, give, give. And Corey gets my attention across the room, and she's like, that's you. And I initially, anytime I get a compliment like that, I want to say, that's not true at all. You don't know me. I'm really a horrible person. But, it is true in that I would always consider somebody else's needs first. And so I think I look toward that same kind of trait in other leaders. I like somebody who is who is not only giving and generous, but temperate and even-handed in a way that shows that you can trust that person. They're not going to make impulsive, rash, stupid, selfish decisions. So I think, to me, one of the greatest leadership qualities is just somebody that you can say, man, that person has so much going on behind the eyes, in their head. They've thought about so many things ahead of time. I can see how much they care, how this is going to affect other people. And if I can see that trust in them, it's easy to just gel right into whatever their flow is going to be.
Lots of thoughts while you were talking. I totally. Can I swear on this?
Of course you can. We'll edit it out.
Okay. That was one thing that myself and another colleague had this conversation about what it takes to be a great leader. And his one line was, you got to give a shit. You got to give a shit more than you think that they give a shit even. And that's it. You got to give a shit about what happens to them, about, what they had breakfast, what they eat for breakfast that morning, what's going on with their family, where they're going to be on vacation next week. Like, you have to pay attention. And I think that applies to everything, like every aspect of business, because it's that connection, right? That ultimate connection where you feel like someone is actually listening and actually cares about what's happening. So I totally resonate with that. Yeah. So
I have a question for you. You just made me think. I took an evolutionary biology class last semester. Now I'm in an evolutionary psychology class. And it was interesting to me to hear that among other mammals and especially primates, it has been studied that your ability to forgive and reconcile is absolutely paramount to social bonding and a thriving community. And so the whole nature of cooperation means that, of course, conflict is a given. That's going to happen. And you can get these alpha dominant people, and you are certainly alpha. I'm alpha. And so you can just butt heads and you can disagree. But I think another great strength of a leader is the ability to say, okay, I can recognize this. I don't have to take this as a threat. This person is a strong personality, and that's a great leadership trait. So how can this person and I, navigate things together and use our strengths in an aligned way instead of a conflicting way? And one thing I've definitely had to do with Corey, we've been working together now for 10 years because she is as alpha as it gets. I hate to keep using the same cliche, but so we had to learn to really recognize that when somebody's really animated about something or dogmatic about something, don't just be confrontational and say, no, I think that's a bad idea. Let's dig in. Let's talk about it. If anything does escalate to, maybe hard feelings, you gotta talk that stuff through almost instantly. And that goes all up and down a leadership chain. It's not just two people in that co-leadership role, but up and down. I mean, you have to be, as a leader, you have to be somebody willing to step out and say, man, I hope I didn't offend you, or I didn't mean this, or, hey, I realized I screwed up. Let's talk about this. And that's a really important part of maintaining vibrancy in a relationship, is just that you absolutely are willing to reconcile almost instantly.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I love that you hit on that topic, because I think for anyone that's looking at being in any sort of entrepreneurship business, that's going to be something that they are faced with at some point, if not frequently, especially when they're working with other people, whether they're working for them or alongside them. Did you have a question with that one?
Well, what I was going to say is, as you see your interactions deepen and your relationships deepen with some of your coaches, do you see yourself saying, okay, usually I'm like this, I'm 80 miles an hour charging ahead. Now I have to pull back and say, what, this person needs to go through a process different than mine. And if you come into any sort of conflict, or I guess my question is, how often do you see some kind of conflict arise where you need to say, hey, let's step back and think this through? Because this is a big point where I think it really creates a lot of fractured partnerships, a lot of relationships, a lot of employees leave, and when they didn't have to, just because somebody felt like there was an obstacle to thriving. So how do you prevent that? And have you seen anything that you've had to kind of temper your own style to address?
I think each opportunity that does arise like that is always an opportunity for me to self-reflect and grow from it. I feel like my brain is kind of divided into two. I'm either the logical, like very business, like driven brain. You can probably even see it when I respond to certain emails with you. It's either like business Shannon or it's like personable Shannon. And when I have a glimmer that something has arisen where someone else has something that they feel is like a little sticky, whether they have an opinion or something isn't working for them or whatever the case may be, like it feels sticky. It's like you guys are, like butting up against each other or rubbing up, whatever. And then I feel like I go into that personable part of my brain, whatever you'd like to call it. And in that way, I try to listen to the best of my ability, understand where they're coming from, acknowledge that I heard them, and then look at what they need and what they want, and look at it like that. Because if we don't have that communication, then I find that what our brains will do is to create a story, right? A story about what we think that they need or what we think that they want. And that's never going to be true until we ask them. I think you and I just had a call about that. Yeah, because I wanted to call you and I wanted to clear something up, because it was very possible for me to create a story about why a decision was made. But that would have been totally false unless I had come to you and just asked you about it. And then when I ask you about it, instead of a defense coming up, then it just gets to open, right? There's no wall to butt up against. So.
Yeah, I love what you just said about, first of all, you just described empathy perfectly. You could have this aggressive need to get something done in business, or there's some kind of a roadblock, and to just be able to step back and say, why is this person responding this way? What do they want? What do they need? That is way harder than it sounds. Like, that just sounds so easy. Oh, I'll write that down and I'll do that next time. I mean, that takes a lot of freaking skill and temperance in just you being able to say, I don't need to respond to this. I don't need to protect myself. I can instead invite this person in and see what's happening there. And it really goes down to, Corey is an expert in self-determination theory. That was what her doctoral dissertation was in. That has just bled all over our company in the fact that Kevin Brunacini just did his doctoral dissertation on a similar topic. And just in a nutshell, for you to be able to say, okay, this person, we all have three basic psychological needs that can splinter into a million, but in that million, there are three basic funnels, which is this person needs connection, like they feel like they need to be in step with me here, and they feel this is being fractured. Or more likely in a business relationship, they need to feel competent. They need to feel like they have a role that's respected, they're needed. And if you just start stomping down on their ideas, you're just destroying them. And the other one, of course, is the need for autonomy, which is also some of that, to give them their space and say, you can make some decisions here. I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do. So all of those things come into play, and you as a leader to just recognize that is so important. It just starts with taking that step back, asking yourself, but also, as you so perfectly said, just ask them. That's going to be the easiest thing to do.
Yes. Yes. They will always know better about what they think and what they need than I will.
Isn't that simple? And yet, we just like skip over that and just roll right into a fight. Yes.
And sometimes even if they tell us what we need, if we're not in a place where we can hear it, we'll think that that can't be what they need. They've got to,
So I want to finish with one question.
Okay.
If you were gone, so to speak, you just drifted away, you went to live on a deserted island somewhere, and everybody's like, whatever happened to Shannon? What would you want people to remember you by as a leader? Let's say you've grown this, you've got 1 million employees, and you're now the biggest company in the world. You've revolutionized the health and fitness industry somehow. What does Shannon Morse want to leave as an impacting legacy?
A spark that ignited something in others.
Awesome.
Something for them. Yeah.
So
that's all I want.
You want other people to just be the best versions of them, if I can put words into your mouth.
Yeah. I want to ignite something that already exists in them and for them to discover it to the fullest.
Awesome. Well, I think this is a topic worth digging into deeper, but I do want to thank you for stepping in on short notice and just being a guest in the Life Mastery podcast, Shannon. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you too. It's always fun to be here.
All right. And you guys can check out Shannon. She is the co-owner of the Diet Doc Lifestyle, as well as the owner now of 3 or 4 different Diet Doc territories around the country. Shannon, what's the easiest way for people to get a hold of you?
To just go to the dietdoclifestyle.com. That's the easiest way. Or call me.
All right. So thank you guys for listening to this and watching, those of you who are on the video portion, but we will see you again next time. Thank you very much.